Good morning, everyone. So I'm gonna record myself going over your calendar with a couple tweaks for this week, just to make sure we're all on the same page with this. First 2 days are pretty standard. Yesterday, like I told you guys, should just be reviewing. We're looking at period five now. So period five is your build up to the Civil War. That's where you're looking at all the various compromises, like Compromise of 1850, and all the other aspects regarding the expansion of the United States with territory gained from the Mexican-American War and that concept of manifest destiny. What do we do now with all these new territories? Are they slave or free? And that's what eventually embroils us into that Civil War conflict. So that's what this period really looks at. And then it looks at the era of Reconstruction that we talk about, the period immediately after the war, about a decade or so, where we are putting the country back together in some ways, and really what the North is instituting into the South in terms of what expectations are supposed to be for this new society that they're trying to create there. So a lot to cover with that time frame. So make sure that you looked over your notes. Make sure that you, if you've checked out these College Board review sessions, I've heard some people have really enjoyed them. There's actually 3 this week that cover period 5. First one covers manifest destiny and sectionalism. So that's kind of build up to the war. Next one covers the war itself. The election of 1860, that's where Abraham Lincoln's elected. And then the final one covers Reconstruction, so the after effects of the war, and just the big picture of period 5 itself. So a lot of people found those helpful. Feel free to check those out should you want the extra information. I've also got another quizzes up there for you guys. Several of you are still doing those, like just that general quick content review. So feel free to check that out. Quizzes is a optional. It shows up in Google Classroom as like an assignment because that's just the only way I can have it pop up there currently. I'll probably work with that in the future, but the way I've currently set it up, it is what it is there. So if you want to do the quizzes practice, feel free to check that out. That's noon and Friday. Because I graded up all your DBQs this past week and I want to give you guys the opportunity for more feedback, I've got office hours for the next 2 days, actually. Today at noon, Tuesday, and Wednesday at noon as well. So it'll be about an hour. I'll post a Zoom link. Pop in if you have questions. I'll pull up your DBQ if that's really what you want me to go over. I try to give you guys as much detailed feedback as possible, and I really liked that format. Usually I have you handwrite it because you can't handwrite it, because you have to handwrite it for the exam. I didn't want you guys to type it because you couldn't up to, coronavirus. So now that you can, I'm really excited about Google Docs because I was able to give you a lot more feedback and write into the margins more. So hopefully that was helpful for you. So if you need more feedback, I'll be available an hour today at noon, an hour today tomorrow and Wednesday. Feel free to pop into the Zoom and let me know if you have questions or anything like that. Or just in general, it doesn't have to be about DBQs, just anything about what's going on or you want any other support. I'm there. Usually I said I was going to alternate between the Albert practice multiple choice and the DBQ based off your DBQ responses and what you guys seem to want more support with. I just booted Albert. You can do the quizzes if you want multiple choice practice. You should be reviewing the notes, go through the College Board videos. That's going to be the best way to review content at this point, I would say. So what you want to do by the end of the week, by Wednesday, go over my DBQ feedback and start thinking about what do you need the most support with. I have created 2 different assignments for you to help you there. The first one deals with contextualization and thesis 2. It has you write a thesis, but it's also really going to help you focus on contextualization because you need to know what your topic is, what your thesis is, because that informs your contextualization. And the other one is document analysis. So some of us are really struggling. You're doing a good job of telling me what the document says, but now you need to explain why that's important, especially in terms of audience, historical situation, purpose of the document, or the point of view of the author. So there are 2 different assignments. You pick one, and that's what's going to be due Friday at noon. And I've got that listed for Thursday. I know you've got some other things due Thursday, Friday between your other classes. Should be really simple, really quick for you. Probably shouldn't take you maybe 30 minutes, 45 minutes. And I'll show you quickly what each one of those looks like. First off, let's do contextualization first. So the contextualization first, it basically does a quick overview of period 5 and gives you some essential guiding questions to think about. And then it tells you what the 2 prompts are going to be that you're writing your thesis and contextualization for. It's evaluate the extent to which growing sectional tensions caused the Civil War, and evaluate the extent to which the Reconstruction era signified a profound revolutionary shift in American society and politics. And then for the 2 prompts, they basically want you to do that. There's some extra little stuff for you to read. There's even a Tiger King reference. Oh boy, I borrowed this from someone else. I'm not that funny. Then they give you 2 different examples based off the Progressive Era and an essay, and then based off United States imperialism essay. So these are examples. Some of you are struggling with, I don't know what it looks like. Boom, there's contextualization. Boom, there's a thesis. So feel free to check those out to get that support you need. And then there's space there for you to actually write your contextualization and your thesis. A lot of you, I told you your contextualization wasn't enough. So feel free to understand you need to expound more and understand contextualization is just how you tie your thesis into your document. So contextualization essentially looks at, if you're watching, I've said the Harry Potter reference before, but if you're watching a TV show or whatever, you don't start halfway into a season. You got to know what happened before. So a lot of those TV shows will give you that, previously on blah, blah, blah. That's what they're looking for your essay. That's what contextualization is. It's previously in American history, and you need to explain immediately what was relevant that leads into your thesis, your time frame, so to speak. So you can do the thesis contextualization, or for those of you that are struggling more with how to analyze documents. Now, here's the thing. We've done this throughout the year. I just didn't give you this fancy sheet. When I gave you a document, we would talk about these things in general. But I realize now some of you need a little bit more of a formula. So trying to help there. There are 2 different sources that you're going to look at. One is the 7th of March speech by Daniel Webster. We looked at that with Profiles in Courage earlier on this year. And the second one is the majority opinion of Dred Scott versus Sanford. So both Civil War era documents, or build up to Civil War era. So what I want you to do, the HIP acronym is what a lot of APUSH teachers across the country use to explain historical content, or give you an acronym for document analysis. So the H is historical context, I for intended audience, P for point of view, and the other P for purpose. They're staying HIP. Oh, God. What I want you to do is check out the source. This will be one of the 5 sources you see listed on DBQ, and then thinking about what's the historical context, audience, point of view, purpose. So you fill out 3 of those 4, do that for this source, and then fill out 3 of those 4 for the next source. Idea being, you try to do this as you're going through the documents themselves and planning, and that way when you write in your essay, you've already got what the quick document was, and you can explain more about one of these. On the new DBQ, you need to explain document analysis for 2 documents, and that's a point for each. So that's really nice. It's much easier for you to get document analysis points. On the old way we did it, you guys used to have to analyze 3 documents, and that only got you 1 point. Now you analyze 1 document, that gets you a whole point. You analyze another document, that's a whole nother point. So definitely want to take advantage of that. I want you guys to develop this skill for sure. So those are your choices. Pick one of those 2 different assignments, turn it back into me. That's going to be due Friday at noon. In general, if you have questions, feel free to reach out. A lot of you guys have done a great job with that, and I look forward to helping you. I'll give you another DBQ next week, and I'll do the same thing, giving you as much feedback as possible, and hopefully I'll be able to see some growth with contextualization or document analysis, whatever you need more help with. All right, thanks. Talk to you soon.